For all my Virgo risings who are about to watch this video, just please take a moment to appreciate that I tried to pay attention to detail in my background. I tried to perfectly center myself, but you know, y'all are the kings and queens of perfection, and I'm just a peasant in comparison. So please have mercy on me. Hola, my beautiful lotus flowers. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back, or thank you so much for joining us here and sharing these precious moments with me. If you're into nerding out on everything astrology, spirituality, and self-transformation, this is the community for you. Today we're talking all about the Virgo Rising, aka the Virgo Ascendant sign. We're going to start off by talking about the general personality traits of a Virgo Rising, then some difficulties in personality that Virgo Rising should be aware of and how to kind of work with those, and then this overall strengths of a Virgo Rising towards the end. And if you're not sure what a rising sign is, if you want to know in more detail, you can refer to my past video on rising signs. There will be a card and a link in the description. But just for now, the rising sign is determined by the time you were born, the exact time you were born. You cannot estimate, it has to be the exact time, the date you were born, and the location you were born. And the rising sign basically determines the placements of your entire birth chart, so it's very important. And in comparison to your sun sign, your rising sign is like your outermost personality. It's kind of how you come off to other people, how they may perceive you, and the way that you immediately handle your environment. Whereas the sun sign is more of our actual personality. Once someone gets to know you, how you handle yourself in personal relationships, so on and so forth. Without further ado, let's talk about the Virgo rising in detail. First, we're going to talk about some general traits of somebody with a Virgo rising sign. First and foremost, if you're coming into contact with a Virgo rising for the very first time, they're going to appear as an extremely level-headed and logical individual that's also a little bit mysterious. So Virgos are known for their analytical mind. They're really good at piecing together situations, kind of like the puzzle masters of the zodiac. So when you meet a Virgo rising, they might come off a little bit mysterious or aloof because a lot of the time they're taking their environment in through their mind and they're analyzing it logically. It's not necessarily that they don't like you or that they're kind of stuck up. They literally just stay in their heads a lot at first, and details really matter to them. So they're always honed in on everything around them and trying to figure out everybody and everything. But once you talk to them a little bit, now the Virgo sign is a mutable earth sign. So even though they have that kind of grounded nature about them, they're going to have the mutable quality in them. So that means that they do change topics or tasks rather quickly. They get bored of a certain thing pretty quickly. So if you talk to a Virgo rising, most likely you're going to find them switching from topic to topic pretty quick, getting over things pretty quick, or their attention span is a little bit on the shorter side when you're talking about stuff maybe they're not so interested in. But again, it's not anything that they mean bad by. They literally just do these things without realizing it because it's just how they immediately are reacting to their environment. Something that tends to attract individuals to a Virgo rising is that they come off as a very confident individual. Even though they are a little bit mysterious and very logical, they are very sure of themselves. So because they're so detail oriented and because they try to take in as much knowledge about their surroundings as they can oftentimes feel like they have everything a bit figured out before somebody tells them the truth or before the actual information is presented to them. So automatically they'll think, oh, I got so and so figured out, or I know how to do that better than anybody else, you know? So they kind of have that, not saying they're egotistical, they're just confident and sure of their intellect and sure of how they understand their surroundings. Not only that, they don't really like to conform to their environment. So if somebody is trying to challenge the way that they think they figured out how to do something, or they think they know something the best, somebody really has to present a solid, proof-filled argument to kind of take them out of that and be like, oh, okay, like I guess I was wrong, you know? They do come off quite sure of themselves, and they also do not like conforming, and they don't really care for criticism or questioning. So if you're going to question them, you really have to be sure that you have a solid argument laid out with all the facts and details in place to get them to change their mind. Now, Virgo risings are also concerned with how their environment is organized. So they probably come off as very organized people. They're good at organizing their thoughts, and they're good at organizing the environment around them. Now, whether they're actually organized in their most personal life is a little bit different. It depends on their other sign placements. But as a Virgo rising, if you work with them, if you're around them, just in general, they like to make sure their surroundings are pretty organized and clean. Everything that's going to make them feel more comfortable in their environment. Before we move on, if you're a Virgo rising, be sure to leave a comment down below. I love to know if any of my Virgo risings are watching. And if you haven't already, be sure that you hit the like button. It helps me out so much. And be sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on. For the not as fun part, for some of you Virgo risings, we're going to talk about some of the difficulties you may face in your personality when having a Virgo rising, and kind of what to be aware of. Now, this isn't to be negative. This isn't to say like, gosh, you guys have so many issues. I like including this so that way you can become aware of some of these traits and kind of work through them, because the more awareness we have towards who we are, the more that we can work with who we are to become the best version of ourselves. The first thing that Virgo rising should be aware of is that you might tend to come off pretty unfriendly to people who first meet you. Unfriendly, cold, mysterious. And like I mentioned in the general traits of a Virgo rising, it's not that they mean anything bad by it. They really don't. They're just so in their heads. They're trying to figure everybody out. They're kind of skeptical. So they don't mean anything by it. But just know that if you're a Virgo rising watching this, this can negatively affect your environment without you realizing it. You might create, more enemies. And I'm not saying that it's 100% your responsibility how people respond to you, but it is something to be mindful of, because at the same time, you don't want to unintentionally be rude to other people. And this will really help your personal relationships if you kind of notice that a lot of people might react negatively to you. Next is being so incredibly detail oriented. Being detail oriented is definitely a double-edged sword for the Virgo rising, because you immediately pay attention to everything in your environment. You analyze it, you figure out what's up with that person, how to do this and that, and you just want to know everything. Right? And that's a good thing, but when you're so detail oriented, you can easily become fixated on the tiniest minute detail that ultimately should be irrelevant, but just because you notice it and you don't like it, you become so fixated on this one small detail that it keeps you from looking at the bigger picture or the long-term picture, whether that's with a relationship, whether that's with a workplace, a project, whatever it might be. You can be quick to fall back on something or lose sight of something simply because one little detail got in your way and you didn't like that. You want to be aware if you're doing that, and be sure that you kind of keep the bigger picture in your mind, just because this can keep you from moving forward and making important progress towards your goals and your relationships, whatever the situation may be. Third, Virgo risings again are very analytical of their direct environment and of the people that they meet. So having such a logical, matter-of-fact mind all the time can kind of lead them down an unfavorable path sometimes. It's important that a Virgo rising allows space to have lighthearted, random, spontaneous fun, or else they're going to become, once again, trapped. Just like the detail-oriented trait might keep them trapped sometimes, this trait can also keep them trapped within themselves. It can really take a toll on the mental health to create a cage around yourself of this logical thinking of everything having to be perfect, rather than never allowing spontaneous fun or enjoyment. So it's important that Virgo risings have some type of lighthearted aspect in their lives. If you have to force yourself to be lighthearted at some points, force yourself. If somebody says, hey, maybe you should have fun for once, like, come on, maybe you should take that opportunity on, because you may not realize it, but that feeds into your mental health, and can really bleed over into your work, into your relationships, into your family, etc., etc. The fourth thing that a Virgo rising should really be aware of is the fact that being a mutable earth sign means that it's very easy for you to get huge bursts of energy towards a project, towards a relationship, and then have it quickly die off, whether that's because you just got bored of it because your brain is so focused on taking in the world and so much different knowledge and experiences, or whether it's because you've found that little detail that you don't like and now that killed everything for you. The thing that you really need to work on when it comes to this is your endurance and how well you're able to stick with something, you know, and really give it your all before burning out and giving up on it or deciding to change your path. You really can't just pick something up all the time, try it for a few seconds, and then drop it because of one little thing. So that can definitely be something you may experience. So it's good to have some practices in place that test your endurance, whatever that might be for you. Maybe you can try to start instilling teeny tiny habits into your day that only take a couple minutes, but you do it consistently. And this will really raise your consistency and everything that you do, kind of get you into the routine of enduring something and trying something over a long period of time and slowly building up as time goes on. And this will get you into some type of routine, and then you can start building onto that and creating endurance in your life. Now let's talk something more fun. Let's talk about Virgo rising strengths to also be aware of and to really hone in on if you're a Virgo rising. Once again, being detail oriented is a double-edged sword, and we talked about the more negative side of the sword, the harder to deal with side. Now let's talk about the side that's good. Being so detail oriented gives you a skill that a lot of people tend to not have. You can catch a lot of little things that a lot of people don't pay attention to. And this translates also into the Virgo sun and the Virgo moon as well. Virgos are just so great with details, and that is so important. It literally makes you such an amazing comrade to people. It makes the work that you do absolutely amazing. It makes your environment amazing, and it has so much opportunity for you being that detail oriented and that analytical of everything around you. Second is that you absolutely love to gain knowledge on different things in the world. The earth aspect makes you really want to put this into your work, into how you service the world, but you are so great at obtaining knowledge. You're honestly very intellectual, very smart, and even though you have that logical mind that we talked about the negative side of, the positive side is that you are super smart. And once again, just like being detail oriented, this is going to make you excel in so many things in life that a lot of other people might struggle in naturally. Third, combining all those traits, being intellectual, detail oriented, analytical, and logical, all of those traits can translate into Virgo risings really excelling in the scientific fields, especially natural science, natural medicine, so on and so forth. And that's because Virgo risings like to be in an environment where they feel like they have control over the situation. And even though that may be frustrating, that means that you should really be putting yourself in a field where you do have control. And being in the sciences, especially natural science, because it's also an earth sign, so working with the earth is always key. But even if it's just, whether it's chemistry or whatever it might be, you're able to take the elements hands-on and control them and make something and be of service to the world in that way. And that's very important to Virgo risings, to be in an environment where they have control over the elements or what they're doing. And science is a perfect place for that. And I'm sure there's other fields you can probably name off right now that are also great for that, but science is just what came to mind. Virgo risings are usually very practical thinkers right from the get-go. So they're really good at analyzing a situation right away and knowing the pros and cons of it and really putting the puzzle together that other people might not be able to figure out, especially if they're around somebody who gets too swept up in their passions and emotions right away and doesn't really stay grounded. The Virgo rising is very helpful to people like that and just very needed in the world. The whole world was ran by a bunch of Pisces and Cancers, and I'm a Pisces, so I'm insulting myself here. We need people like Virgo risings and Virgos in general, because you guys are such practical, logical thinkers, and you're really able to piece out all the aspects of a situation in your mind, analyze it. You're literally like a working computer. Your brain is like a working computer. And to other people who are too emotionally focused, we need people like you. Again, if you're a Virgo rising watching this video, leave a comment down below and let me know if any of this hit home for you or anything I may have forgotten. I love to learn more, maybe that I missed. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure, if you haven't already, jump over to the LaBlue Lotus Facebook community if you're into more about astrology, spirituality, and self-transformation. And if you haven't already, be sure that you watch these videos because they will help you so much more with astrology and your spiritual journey. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Adios.